hearing to order. It is February 12, 2026. I'm calling it to order at 1:30 p.m. Roll call of the commissioners. We have Bateson, Foster, Harwood, Slater, Summer, and Voles present. Absent is Commissioner James. Community Development staff in attendance is our new Community Development Director, Mike Beharry, thank you. I want to say so. So welcome, congrats. Planning Manager Ben Tarbutton, Administrative Secretary Jocelyn Henning, and Administrative Manager Robert Reba Greatness. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Okay, so no changes to the agenda. We move to the approval of minutes. Any changes to the January 15th, 2026 workshop minutes? Seeing no changes, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to accept the minutes.
And any second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And all in favor of accepting the minutes?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, next we will do a poll for conflict of interest for the public hearing. Do we have anybody feel they have a conflict of interest with the issues we're going to be discussing today?
Nope.
Okay, thank you. All right, we are going to move ahead and go into the public hearing. I'll just do a brief outline of the process and then we'll go ahead and open it. We will be doing a public hearing today on case number ORA 25-0022, covering two interim ordinances, ORA 639 and ORA 638. Our Community Development Director, Mike Beharry, will provide an overview of the ordinances and then answer any questions from the planning commissioners. After that, I will open it for public comments on the ordinances, and we will take both in-person comments and also if there's anybody on the phone. Once all comments have been heard, I will close the public hearing, and then we will enter into separate deliberations so we can keep it clear on the two ordinances. The public hearing today will address, again, case number ORA 25-0022, which covers two interim ordinances, ORA 639, marine service businesses, and ORA 638, minimum size for lots of parcels within the agricultural zone and within the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Reservation. Workshops covering these topics have been held with the Planning and Zoning Commission. This amendment aims to permanently implement these two ordinances to allow marine service businesses to operate as a by right use in the commercial zone and to permanently increase the lot size in the agricultural zone from 5 acres to 10 acres within the boundaries of the Coeur d'Alene Tribe Reservation. I will go ahead now and open public hearing OR 25-2022 and give it over to our new director for his introduction and presentation.
Sure. For the record, I'm Mike Beharry, Director for Community Development. For a little bit of background on me, I have been in planning for over 20 years. Recently, I was working for Coeur d'Alene for 10 years, and then within the last year, I worked for SCJ Alliance as a consultant. So I'm excited to be here. Ben is bringing me up to speed on everything, and so is Craig. So very excited to be here and working with everyone.
And given that Director Beharry's only been with us for a week now, I think we agreed that it would probably be more appropriate if I go ahead and introduce the different ordinances and hopefully field any questions should you have any. But good afternoon, again for the record, Planning Manager Ben Tarbutton. And as Chair Bateson had mentioned, today we have two different ordinances before you. We have gone through workshops on both of the ordinances. They are interim ordinances, both of them are, which means that they're only good for a year period. They don't follow the traditional protocol for a formal code amendment, and so it bypassed the Planning Commission last time around for the need to be quick on it. And so we are now approaching that expiration, and so again, they are currently, these two amendments, these two code amendments are within our code, but are coming up on their expiration date in April and May. With that, if we maybe just touch on the marine service business ordinance, this goes back to a request actually by the Board of County Commissioners, which, if you will recall, we have some very clear limitations as to what activities can occur within our shoreline management area. It does not allow for, previously, it did not allow for any commercial operations to use that 25-foot shoreline management area for marine type service businesses, which made it complicated. We have a lot of waterfront property owners, we have a lot of waterfront, and it was necessary for these types of services to occur, but there wasn't a great way for these businesses to be established, and most of them had some kind of nonconformity type of a use, which meant they were established before 1973. So this was a request by the Board of County Commissioners that we look to implement some way to allow for these businesses to begin, and that way they can provide service, still, protecting the shoreline and the lakes, but also allowing for some more flexibility of access and so on. So again, I won't get into a lot of the details unless you have questions. This is just making the use permanent in our code. The only difference that there is from what we currently have to what we are now proposing is not so directly related with with marine service businesses, but it is actually directly related to trams. There is a standard within the shoreline management area, and if I can get there here. Formally, there was a side yard setback of 5 feet for trams from the side yard property line. What is being proposed here before you is that it would be a 0-foot side yard setback. And I know we've covered this in a workshop already, but just for the benefit of the public, I'll just go over that just briefly. There are oftentimes some steep properties, we are all aware of those, that do need help to the waterfront, and a lot of staircases and stairs can be problematic and difficult for a lot of property owners. And so trams have been a nice option for them. Sometimes, of course, and trams can get quite expensive, it's nice for property owners to get together and share this infrastructure, which is generally supported by staff. However, there wasn't a real good way of handling that because it required a setback of 5 feet. It had to have gone on somebody's property, and they required then different easements, and it created some problems for property owners in that regard. So what we're proposing is to do a 0-foot side yard setback so that it has the potential to even cross property lines, as long as the two property owners are okay with that. If it's covered by an easement and they're both on board, to us there didn't seem to be much of a need for a side yard setback. So that was the reason for it. If there was some concern, I know in the workshop, that if one of the properties perhaps is sold, well, maybe they didn't, at that time agree to that easement. However, if they buy the property, they know that this is an encumbrance upon the property, and so therefore it's kind of like what you're getting into at the time of sale. I don't have much more other than that for the marine service business, unless the commission has any questions for staff.
Any questions?
No.
Okay, well done. Let's move on.
One thing I would maybe offer is that it may be appropriate to have a motion and a decision and a recommendation for each ordinance, so that it's a little bit cleaner for the record.
Yeah, I actually said that in my notes.
I missed it. My
So
apologies.
we're thinking alike, that's good. All right, but just for information purposes, we'll go ahead and move to the next one. So go ahead.
Okay, so moving on to the next ordinance, 638. I'm going to go ahead and minimize this. Same kind of thing. This is an ordinance that is an interim ordinance currently and is expiring here this next couple months. A little bit of background. As a result of processing minor subdivisions, different developments within the Coeur d'Alene's Tribes Reservation, there was some concerns expressed by the tribe of the proliferation of these subdivisions and had expressed their displeasure by denials when it went to agency review period. And so, in coordinating with the tribe, they had requested that a larger minimum lot size be applied to the agricultural and rural zones for newly created parcels in their reservation boundary. And so at first we went forward with the rural zone, and that has proceeded and gone through. And so that currently is a permanent change within our regulations. The agricultural zone was not done at the same time, and it's just kind of a little bit lagging effect. The focus was mostly on the rural zone at the time because there is subdivision potential in the rural zone. There is not subdivision potential in the agricultural zone except for exemptions. And so most of the focus was done on the rural side. We're now kind of circling back on the agricultural side to still come into the intent and the request of the Coeur d'Alene tribe. So the actual text amendment is quite brief. In fact, you have it in front of you. It's also on the screen. The extent of the actual code amendment is literally a couple sentences. And in fact, it just simply says that the minimum lot size in the ag zone will be 5 acres, except for minimum parcel size created within the exterior boundaries of the Coeur d'Alene Tribal Reservation on or after August 1st, 2024 shall be 10 acres. So that is the extent of that amendment there. And if there are any questions from the commission, I'd be happy to answer them.
I do have a question, and it's probably taken care of, I just don't understand it maybe. But on previously, people have purchased land down there prior. Are any of them grandfathered in as far as when they purchased the property?
Yes, so anything that exists, and what the amendment here says is this 10-acre minimum lot size occurs for properties within the reservation on or after August of 2024. Meaning if you were before, if you had a parcel that existed before August of 2024, it is considered a legal conforming parcel. Any newly created parcel afterwards, whether it be through a family division exemption or some other exemption, or if they would like to boundary line adjust and modify the size of their parcel, they will be limited to that minimum lot size. And so if it existed beforehand, they're not going to be able to get any smaller because it would be actually increasing a nonconformity. But anything that is created after August of 2024 then has to comply with that minimum standard.
Okay, thank you.
Wasn't there also an opt-out that was done for some of these people?
Yeah, so what you are referring to is there was a kind of the Coeur d'Alene Tribe Reservation area zone change, in which there was a request by the tribe to rezone all of the rural zone properties within the boundaries of the tribe that are 20 acres and greater to make that agricultural. And the Board of County Commissioners weren't comfortable with making a broad sweeping decision for all of those properties, but gave the option for the property owner to opt out of that. And so any property owner said, you know what, I don't want agricultural zone property, and so I'm gonna opt out of that type of a request. And so that option was given to the public, so that was a zoning, option at that point. And this is just a minimum lot size, so a little bit different.
Is there any concern on your part as far as creating a what could be perceived or what actually is preferential treatment to some property owners in the county versus property owners who are in the county but on the reservation? Meaning that the property owners in ag-zoned property are being treated differently on the reservation than the property owners throughout the remainder of the county.
Yeah, I would say that it's fair to say that all properties within the boundaries of the tribe are going to be treated a little bit differently because of the fact that they're within the reservation boundary. So you have a sovereign nation that has some jurisdiction over this area that other parts of the county, they do not. And so, yes, they are going to have some different standards that apply. Now, unfortunately, our legal counsel, Pat Braden, is not present. He went home ill. He was planning on making it, but he wasn't able to be here. He could probably clarify some of the legal issues between the tribe and the county and how that affects different property owners. But I do know it is an expectation, though, that the tribe has some impact and influence for the boundaries within the reservation there.
Thank you. You said previously, though, that when these requests were coming in to the county for family exemptions,
Minor subdivisions.
minor subdivisions, okay, and then the tribe was denying those on their end.
That's correct.
So then, is it necessary for the county to even become involved in this matter?
You raise a good question. That is part of the case, I think, from the standpoint of the tribe, is that they believe that they do have that authority, but in good coordination with the county, they want to make sure that we are still working together in this matter. And the full extent of that argument, I don't think has yet really truly been argued before the Supreme Court. And so I don't know if that's an actual, there's no case law that has gone that far to really make that case yet. So I don't know that I could truly be definitive in that.
Any other questions? Okay, you're good? Anything else?
Nothing else from staff, again, unless there's any other questions.
Okay, all right, well, we'll go ahead and open it to public comment. I didn't receive any cards. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to speak to these issues? Okay, anybody on the phone? No. Okay, all right. Well, then, at this time, I'll go ahead and close the public comment period, and would entertain a motion to do so.
I so move.
Okay.
Commissioner Harwood,
We're closing public comment.
Yes.
Commissioner Summer,
Yes.
Commissioner Slater,
Yes.
Commissioner Bowles,
Yes.
Commissioner Foster,
I apologize, I did not catch the full movement.
We're closing public comment.
Oh, yes.
Chair Bateson.
Yes. Okay, so motion passed, so I will now open it to deliberations among us. What do you got? Any questions, concerns?
Like I said, my main concern was, the grandfathered in, the people who have been there and purchased property prior, or, big family farms and stuff like that, but they've, like Ben explained, they've gotten out, so that they can do something differently, so I'm good with that.
Okay. We can talk about both issues, the Marine Service and this one. We'll go into separate motions, but both are on the table for discussion.
Well,
Nope,
Just
put
other
that-
way.
Yeah, nope,
Nope.
nope, put
Nope.
both.
Two red dots.
all
There you
right, there we go, all right. You know, I just completed working with the tribe for 20 years on other issues, and it is, you know, we don't have definitive answers to everybody's questions, and it does seem to be somewhat, you know, not really arbitrary, but I mean, the fact you can only have a 10-acre lot on the reservation and 5 acres someplace else. But I just like to point out that the tribe is working diligently on reestablishing the environment on the reservation as far as runoff into Coeur d'Alene Lake and the side drainages and stuff. And so they do have some other issues that we may not, you know, completely understand, but they're all natural resource types of issues. So I think this is the best compromise, working the county and the tribe together, that we can make at this particular time.
And I think our workshop that covered this, we did good ground there, so there's really not that much more to talk about unless somebody has any additional questions or anything like that.
Okay, well then, let's go for ORA 25-0022 on ordinance ORA 639 Marine Service Businesses. I will entertain a motion, and please, well, I'll just say I will entertain a motion to approve unless you have a different motion to make.
I make a motion to approve.
ORA 639. Do I have a second?
Commissioner Harwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Summer. Aye. Commissioner Slater,
Aye.
Commissioner Vols. Commissioner Foster. Aye. Chair Bateson.
Aye. Motion passed, thank you. All right, so now we'll go to ORA 25-0022, ordinance ORA 638, minimum size for parcels within the agricultural zone, tribal reservation. So same thing, I would entertain a motion to approve.
I so move.
Okay,
I'll second.
Commissioner Harwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Summer. Aye. Commissioner Slater,
Aye.
Commissioner Vols. Commissioner Foster.
No.
Chair Bateson.
aye. Okay. All right, well, with that, I believe our public hearing is now closed. And actually need a motion for adjournment of the public hearing, and then we will go ahead and move to our workshop. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
I so motion.
Commissioner Harwood,
Aye.
Commissioner Summer. Aye. Commissioner Slater,
Aye.
Commissioner Vols. Commissioner Foster. Aye. Chair Bateson.
Aye. Okay, public hearing is now closed, so I will turn this back to the workshop to you gentlemen regarding the aquifer protection measures and a mining pits discussion.
Yes, so this afternoon we have, in coordination with the Aquifer Protection District, there has been some interest in adding some additional standards to mining activity, specifically over the Rathdrum Prairie Aquifer. We have a couple members from the Aquifer Protection District here this afternoon. Suzanne Scheit has prepared this PowerPoint and is prepared to go through that with you to kind of give you an idea and some background in what we would like to maybe start working on, but also with some guidance and some maybe some questions or advice that the Planning Commission may have. And so I guess with that, unless there's anything else, Suzanne can go ahead and take it on from here.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Ben. Appreciate it. Good afternoon. Thank you for having me here today. I'd also like to introduce Jenny Gray, who is the Aquifer Protection Program Coordinator with Panhandle Health District. For the record, my name is Suzanne Scheit, and I'm a member of the Aquifer Protection District Advisory Board. I represent water districts, and by day I'm the Chief Operating Officer of the North Kootenai Water and Sewer District. So as you know, what I have on the right-hand side of this slide is the Aquifer Protection District parcel fee map. Properties within that green area pay $5.74 a year for aquifer protection activities. Idaho's state statute indicates that the purpose of that aquifer protection district is to protect the state's economy by maintaining a water supply that does not require extensive treatment or rehabilitation before human consumption or commercial use. And we are very blessed to be living over a sole source, protected, sensitive aquifer. So let me see if I can be technically savvy here in, how do I go to the next screen then? Down arrow? Okay. So as you may know, in 2024, the Aquifer Protection District completed a master plan to define our activities over the next several years. And one of those activities was really to identify gaps in existing regulation that left the aquifer vulnerable to contamination. In June of 2023, the president of the Spokane Aquifer Joint Board, you'll see him in the bottom of a reservoir in that third picture, Jeremy Jenkins came over to talk to us about an issue that the Spokane Aquifer Joint Board was experiencing. So SAJB is a compilation of 23 water purveyors in Spokane County that are also drawing from the Rattrand Prairie Aquifer. And they were having growing concern about deregulation of open pit mines to aquifer depth that were within their, what they would refer to as their well capture zone. So essentially, these open pit mines that were excavated to the aquifer depth were actually upstream from the zone of contribution to their municipal wells. So contamination that occurred in those mines could potentially reach their drinking water sources. Does that make sense? The first one that he talked about was the Central Premix Sullivan site. And you're probably familiar with that one. But this one is 67 acres of essentially exposed aquifer surface area. And there are 16 municipal wells downstream in the capture zone of that open pit mine. And that is of great concern to them. It's interesting because if you're on I-90, you really don't see it, but it's actually just on the opposite side of the Spokane River from I-90 and Sullivan. Are you able to, did you have a, okay. Commissioner Foster, did you have a question?
Approximately how deep is it to get down to the aquifer level?
Well, in Spokane, it's probably about 160, 170 feet.
Here it varies.
Here
Right?
it varies, yeah. Here it varies.
How many acres did you say was exposed?
There is 67 acres of the aquifer that's exposed on this one. So Jeremy then went to explain another site where the aquifer has been exposed, and it is now commonly referred to the Lawrence B. Stone Lake, but it is not a lake. It is the aquifer. And you can see right here, they've actually put a boat dock on this lake, and they're fishing out of it. A private property owner. So this is all happening in Spokane County, right? We understand that. Okay, yeah. So this was the Central Premix site. No, I'm sorry, this is the Lawrence, I'm jumping ahead. So there's another one. Jeremy then went to talk about the Central Premix site on Broadway and Sprague, and you're probably all familiar with that one. You can see it from I-90. That has 60 exposed acres of, or surface area that is where we have the aquifer is exposed. And they're apparently stocking that one with fish. there are 6 municipal wellheads downstream of that area. And then the last one is over on Havana, the central premix over on Havana. There's one well that is downstream of that, and there are 17 acres exposed. So after we met with Jeremy, we started to really look into what kind of regulation do we have in Kootenai County to prevent this? What existing regulations are there in the state of Idaho? And Jenny Gray was extremely helpful in helping us research that. She spoke with a gentleman named Andy Mork with the Mineral Lands Program, who's the Mineral Lands Program at Idaho Department of Lands. And this is really taken verbatim from Andy's response. So essentially, IDL does require that gravel pit operators obtain a reclamation plan prior to breaking ground at their pit locations. But the objective of those plans are to ensure that the post-mining landscape is stable and supports a self-sustaining vegetative cover and doesn't contribute to surface water degradation. And IDL's regulations are silent on the maximum depth of the mine. They do have a lot of rules that pertain to the wall bank of the mine and bank safety that could limit the excavation depth, but there's really no specific regulatory requirement to maintain a certain level of substrate above the groundwater table. So, essentially, he did add that there could be other county or local restrictions on depth, but when we researched that with Kootenai County's codes, we didn't turn anything up. DEQ helped us considerably. They did review 30 quarry permits that IDL had approved in Kootenai County between 1979 and 2018. Out of those 30 permits, only 3 permits had any type of a groundwater floor to aquifer depth language in it. So we're just very concerned that we have a regulatory gap. Mr. Mork also told us about some issues in southeast Eagle, Idaho, and these are some photos of it where mining had occurred to aquifer depth historically and was now being repurposed as high-end residential developments. And while Southeast Eagle, Idaho does not have a sensitive sole source aquifer, it still is another warning sign to us that we need to get ahead of this. So this is where we are so far, and thank you to Panhandle Health District for providing these Google Earth maps. These are some of the some of the pit mines that we are seeing around the Beck Road area. So we're seeing these. And there's another one at Highway 95 in Corbin Junction, and then also at North Greens Ferry Road. So in conjunction, or actually I should say in collaboration with DEQ and Panhandle Health District, APD has been working on some recommended aquifer protection measures to provide to planning and zoning for consideration. And certainly we would like to, of course, require that open pit mining activities continue to apply for an IDL permit for protection of the groundwater during and after. But we would also recommend a minimum of 50-foot separation between the pit floor elevation and the highest known aquifer elevation water table below the pit to protect from contamination. And you may be familiar with sensitive aquifer recharge areas as well. We feel that it would be far more prudent that those have additional mitigation measures that are considered with the permit. The 50-foot separation was developed in consultation with DEQ's hydrogeologist and was essentially based on if there was a spill of a hazardous material in a pit, that would give at least 10 days to remediate that site before it could reach the aquifer table. So that 50-foot separation was recommended by DEQ. Of course, we would also recommend protection of the groundwater during and after the operation as per EPA source aquifer designation and Idaho State sensitive resource designation. And then required compliance with the Idaho groundwater rule and the sensitive resource aquifer designation, and required compliance with the current Idaho wastewater rules, as well as required monitoring and containment removal of contaminants associated with the open pit mining activity to be ongoing and in compliance with Kootenai County's critical materials ordinance that is administered by Panhandle Health District, and that all new and existing mines comply with the critical materials ordinance. So, yeah, and I just wanted to acknowledge Seth Oliver and Kevin Ardall with DEQ, who have helped us with this tremendously, as well as Jenny Gray with Panhandle Health District, Kootenai County's Director of Community Development, David Callahan, and staff who've been very helpful. Jeremy Jenkins with Spokane Aquifer Joint Board for pointing this out to us and getting us thinking about it, and Andy Mork from IDL. So do you have any questions for me?
Is your proposal just to have this new regulation be put into effect for new applications?
I think that it would need to be put into effect for new applications. I don't think we could retroactive.
I would like to take a run at retroactive, to be honest with you.
That would be
Because
great.
I'm an engineer and I've worked in water resources for about 50 years, so I think that there's, I don't know, we might not be able to avoid litigation or something that way, but you said there's only 3 out of 32 that, see, that's,
It's concerning.
yeah, and I've worked all over the country with exposing aquifers with open pit mining operations, and I don't really like them very much because it's a situation where you can really foul things up. So anyway, but I mean, to start out with, I think this is important that any new applications should have a protection layer in it for the aquifer, but I'd sure like to, working with you, see if there's some way that we couldn't deal with the existing ones. And I know that, being an engineer, I use lots of gravel and stuff and crushing and, and all that kind of stuff over my many years, but it's still, plus I manage a drinking water system on the aquifer.
I know, I remember.
You remember, yeah. So I mean, I'm concerned. My well's 400 and some feet deep, but I mean, that'd be a deep open pit mine. But I think I'm in support of it, and I would support also taking a look at what to do about 29 other ones that have already been approved, see, because
APD would be absolutely thrilled if planning and zoning could recommend that as,
yeah,
yes.
thank you.
Any other questions for me?
The 50-foot minimum,
Yes.
is that enough in certain places? I would think that covers some, I just think that sometimes that could be actually pretty close, isn't it, to where you're getting to that level?
We would certainly be happy to take another look at it to find out if it should be deeper. I think that for us, I'm not a hydrogeologist. I work with public water systems, and so to me, I understood where Seth Oliver with DEQ was coming from, and that if there is a spill, we want to be sure we have time to clean it up. But if you would like, we can certainly take another look at that.
Well, on that, I mean, it depends on where you're at, because you get up on the rim rock, it's solid, it's rock. You get out on the prairie, it's gravel. Somewhere else, it's clay. So I would think it'd probably take a lot of doing, but trying to do something depending on what the area you're in. Because the ground is different in each place, and it will stay there or it won't. So I think that probably needs to be looked at too, the type of ground you're on when you're starting it.
Well, my experience doing any excavation work, downstream from Pend Oreille Lake, you know, it's all part of the outfall from the Lake Missoula, and it's all diverse materials. I mean, I've seen boulders as big as cars and blow sand like you put in the old ashtrays in hotels, you know, years ago. I mean, that stuff is just, there's everything and anything because it was just a big blowout of all that material. So it's, we used to joke when I first moved here, they could take a fire hose and stick it in the ground in Dalton Gardens and it would never pool water because it drained so fast out of that alluvial material. So I think the point that I think some of the science here is that how long is it going to take for them to react to a spill of some kind in the bottom of the pit before it would get down to the aquifer? And they think that they could get to it fast enough that 50 feet would be an adequate protection if you had a spill of some kind.
Well, and a couple of our guides here, the newer ones, haven't had the advantage, but Ben, remember when that group came and spoke to us about chemical spills, that there are certain companies that deal with chemicals on the aquifer, and there's a geological uniqueness to our aquifer that, I mean, for me, was a wake-up call. That we don't have a lot of time, that others have like clay and it would take more time, but ours, it would just pretty much go down. So these two fellows have not had the advantage of that knowledge. Might be good to bring those people back when we have this conversation, because, yeah, we have a wake-up call here, and it's serious.
Yeah, I mean, in general, the material over the aquifer is very porous. And so there isn't much time to make sure that we can remediate spills and those kinds of things. I think the main point right now is we don't have any layer required in our mining over the aquifer. And so it's like, whether or not we feel like there may be something that should be higher than 50 feet, I mean, that's something we could continue to work on, but we have to decide what is a reasonable amount of soil to give us a reasonable amount of time to respond to a spill. And at this point, again, what we're hearing from professionals is that it seems reasonable that a 10-day response time, it seems adequate, and that typically, it could probably vary on the type of chemical that is spilled. There may be some differences there, but it seems as if 50 feet would do a good enough job to capture the remediation efforts. So I don't know if you wanted to add on anything like that, but I'm not opposed to having anybody else come in. Again, that'd be fine. Yeah.
After our discussions, are you folks planning to sit down and write something then, you know, some kind of a draft ordinance for us to take a look at? So we should be able to
Yeah,
have
what
some
are our
time.
next steps?
Yeah, so, yeah.
Yeah, Suzanne has actually been kind enough to take the first stab at implementing or drafting a code amendment. And so staff would take that and kind of work on maybe coordinating not only that particular standard, but in all areas of our code to make sure it's one, you know, nice and neat package for you. But yeah, if the Planning Commission feels that that's appropriate, or if they have some other direction that they would like us to take, then we can go ahead and begin putting more work and effort into drafting those amendments, and then eventually we would bring it back to you in the scheduled.
What's our
hearing.
turnaround time look like?
Well, I mean, I think we could probably have a decent draft here for your review and consideration. I would say probably within a couple months. So, yeah.
I think we should move forward on that.
Yeah, the sooner the better.
Yeah. I did have a quick question on the aquifer, the recharge areas. How many, or are there any actual mining areas on the recharge areas? Do we know?
I do not know of any mining
No, I don't
activities
either,
over the recharge areas. Jenny, do you?
And I had to deal with the recharge areas because of the contamination in Coeur d'Alene Lake and the Spokane and Coeur d'Alene rivers. And we drilled a bunch of wells to see if any of that recharge from the lake and the river was getting into the aquifer, and it wasn't. The natural ground was filtering out the contamination from the mining waste and stuff in the river and the lake, so that was good. But I don't know of any either, because I've been messing around with the aquifer for a long time. My suggestion of looking into already permitted ones, I don't think we want to mix those yet, because we want to get support on the new ones first. But I think maybe, just not too distant future, it wouldn't hurt for our legal staff to look into what would be the ramification. I don't know if any of you guys agree with that, but
No,
I mean, you got
yes.
29 of them that are operating with no control at all, say.
And just for clarification
It's a
purposes,
public safety issue.
Yeah, I don't know that all 29 of those are over the aquifer, but I could be mistaken. And so, were those
I
over
don't know if all of those permits are active permits, so that they're actively pursuing mining at this time. But IDEQ did tell us that only 3 had language about depth to aquifer.
When,
But if you got a permit, it's like having money in the bank waiting
Yeah.
to use it. So,
You've got
yeah.
a great point there.
Right.
I do
Ben?
think it would be challenging, though, for us to retroactively apply standards for vesting purposes. Certainly, I believe that would open us up to litigation. And so what we would probably be focusing on is new permits, new operations moving forward. Certainly what we can do is work with all pits, open mining activities that we are aware of that are over the aquifer to just for education purposes. I mean, we can certainly coordinate our efforts on that end, saying, hey, here's you may or may not be aware that there's good reason to make sure you maintain some layer or some buffer between the aquifer boundary and the bottom of your pit here, and just kind of coordinate time to meet with them and discuss. But as far as actually enforcing a standard at that point, I don't know that we will be able to.
when they issue those permits, is there a sunset on them? Or do you have a certain length of time to use them, or are they just forever?
I believe that there isn't a sunset. Would you agree, Jamie? That's a great question. Jenny indicated that she isn't aware that there is a sunset on those existing permits, and that she could follow up with Idaho Department of Lands to be sure.
'Cause I would think you'd want them, after a certain length of time, that you should have to reapply for a permit after you've done so much excavation.
The solution to the existing permits without a bottom requirement in them, I mean, you've got some good regulations on how they're supposed to operate and everything, but the point is, do we have the staff funding and the staff available to go out and check and make sure that they're in compliance? You can have all kinds of rules, but if you don't have the ability to enforce the rules, I mean, we could deal with the other ones that don't have a base in them that way. I mean, we should be anyway, but I know how the government's pretty short-staffed and short-funded, to enforce anything like that.
I do remember in some of our conversations with David Callahan, and Ben may be able to speak to this better than I, but for some of the existing pits, he said that some of them may have a conditional use permit that at some point may be, I think, either up to renew or expire. Is that correct, Ben? And during that process, there's potential to apply this. Did I understand that correctly, Ben, from what David?
That's correct. So our conditional use permits, again, these are for zones that are not mining zones. For other zones that would request a restricted surface mine require a conditional use permit, and they are good for a 5-year period. They are subject then to a renewal at that point. So they come in with a different application for renewal. But yeah, if there is reason for us to add any additional standards, such as something like this, that might be an opportunity for us to enforce that standard. That is a question we should probably address with our staff and legal counsel, the board as well, the Board of County Commissioners, that is. And, but that's certainly a possibility to impose conditions on that.
When they reapply for those, do they go through the exact same permitting process, or or is it filtered down on their requirements when they get?
Yeah, it's not the
Being
same
they're already
process. It's not the same process. The idea, of course, is they go through it one time. They have the public hearing format to get all the comments from the agencies with jurisdiction, and we appropriately condition it based on those comments. From there, they update us. They make an application. It doesn't go to a public hearing. Again, it is essentially showing how they're complying with the original conditions. If they are requesting maybe expansion, there may be a different procedure for that. But if it's simply saying, here's what we had proposed, we're still, in line with that proposal, there's not much for expansion, it's administrative, I guess. Yeah.
Just a quick question on all the ones that are in Spokane. Are they doing anything about those areas? I mean, those seem pretty problematic, but
Yes, and
what's going on with them?
the Spokane Aquifer Joint Board has been very frustrated because they will approach one regulatory agency to ask them to do something, and they will point their finger at another regulatory agency and say it is actually their jurisdiction. So it's just become a big finger-pointing effort without resolution.
Okay.
Is there any flow through?
Yes.
Like I say, being an engineer around here for a while in the rest of the country, those pits have been there, especially the central premix ones. Man, I was working with central premix when I was building roads and bridges, and those pits have been there a really, really long time. And they're big ones, their operations for a while, they were the only premix company around that did any precast concrete beams and stringers and all kinds of stuff. So they've been around a very, very long time. So I can understand why they're having difficulty dealing with them. And you can always buy lakeshore property over there, so.
So to be clear, the flow of the aquifer is not just from east to west, like most of us normies would think that the aquifer flow would kind of flow the way the Spokane River goes.
Yes.
So then the aquifer actually can flow any direction?
No, you're correct that the aquifer does flow east to west. I brought these examples to you about what's happening over in Spokane County as just some concerns that were presented to us. And when SHAB came to APD, it was basically, don't let this happen to you, and you're upstream from us, so please do something about it.
On the aquifer, with that question, how far south does it go and how far north does it go? I mean, I know it's a big aquifer, but how many miles does that entail?
I think a visual would be our very best bet to explain this to you, and Ben's going to pull something up to
Yeah, and to speak to size, it covers about 370 square miles in North Idaho and Eastern Washington. About 250 square miles of that are in North Idaho, so it does cover a large area.
I don't know if that's at a scale that's helpful.
So that goes up into Bonner County and,
Correct. Yeah, the northern county boundary is right here.
okay?
Years ago, we used to think that Pend Oreille Lake was the major source for the aquifer, but recent stuff, Hayden is. In fact, remember when we were looking into the city of Hayden's mapping, and they had that, we had that wetland that had just the one dwelling on it. That's one of the major Hayden Lake feeders. And like I said, I didn't realize until I came back to Coeur d'Alene that, see down below here, Coeur d'Alene Lake and the Spokane River, all of that area there is a major source too. And that's why I got into the business of checking to see if the contaminated water in the lake that was contaminated with mine waste was getting into the aquifer, and it wasn't. So there's a number, but it does flow, southeast to west and east to west. And then up north, up where I live, clear up almost, past Athol, it comes down north and then west.
So then it channels towards.
Right,
From
and,
the north and
the
south.
depths are, like I said, my well out there by Silverwood is 408 feet deep, and your well is what?
258, I think, out on the
180
prairie.
or something, and as you get, and then when you get to Spokane, the little Spokane River comes out of the north into the Spokane, and the aquifer actually comes up to the surface in the little Spokane River eventually, because the ground underneath is rock and stuff, because you're getting out where the alluvial fan from the Lake Missoula gets shallower and shallower and shallower as you go west, so it's much, some of the wells over there on west side of Spokane are only 70 feet. And it's to the same body of water.
Is there any collaboration with Bonner County up north?
No,
I'm sorry to keep asking such disappointing questions.
No, I wish there were. But if I could take off the APD hat for a minute, I'm also the president of the Idaho-Washington Aquifer Collaborative, and we are working on an updated hydrogeologic model of the Rattrun Prairie extent of the aquifer that's going to essentially show us flows across the aquifer. And the water purveyors are doing this so that we can understand how much water we're going to have in 90 years under climate change influence and under population growth, because we want to be prepared for that. And our hydrogeologist is doing some really interesting studies, and he's actually finding that the aquifer may actually be flowing north close to Bonner County and not south as we had originally anticipated. And so we should have those studies available in October. And
great.
we're more than happy to share those with Kootenai County too, for any planning purposes. So,
Thank you.
yeah.
This might be a little bit more of a question for Ben or Mr. Bahari, but one of the proposed recommendations here is to require monitoring and containment and removal of contaminants. And what type of a monitoring program would you envision? And how would that work?
Well, aren't there other regulations that we have for industrial activities and stuff that would, kind of overlap into some of this kind of stuff, that where we do have, some pretty good regulations on, industrial operations and storage of chemicals and all that. So it's not like it would have to all be included in this. You could use a combination of, your various ordinances to manage those types of activities.
I think Jenny may have some input too.
Yeah, I can add to that a bit. So the critical materials ordinance that is now housed at Kootenai County, but Panhandle Health administers on the ground. We are out. All of those pit mines that you saw in Kootenai County, we do work with them actively in the critical materials program. So we go out every 2 years and we're looking at their chemical storage and handling, looking for secondary containment, looking at any of their non-domestic wastewater disposal. So part of that inspection process, if we did see issues, that would initiate some sort of corrective action. If they do have any waste they need to haul off site, that's part of our inspection, making sure that they're having an approved waste hauler take it off site to an approved location. So I think that could be very well captured through that existing critical materials ordinance. But if we saw anything that was out of our jurisdiction, we would certainly report that to Kootenai County or DEQ or whoever the, group that had jurisdiction.
so a lot of it is honor system, basically. I mean, I know you guys are doing what you can do, but you're spread thin and everything else. So a lot of it is honor system.
There isn't the ability for PhD to be out there every day. And so they will do their regular inspections, but yeah, there is some making sure that the property owner, developer is doing the right thing too.
And I seem to remember, and I think now it was you who came and spoke to us. You can only do it visit every 2 years.
We do.
Yeah,
We do
so,
have, if we have complaints come in or any concerns from the public, we, through the ordinance, the way it's worded, we have the authority to go out there at any time in between that 2-year inspection period to do a site visit and check on any issues that may be there.
And furthermore, we have the ability to require more regular inspections if we feel that it's necessary from the Planning Commission and Board of County Commissioners. So we certainly have that ability to incorporate, more frequent monitoring.
I don't have a whole lot of concerns about this, what we just been discussing. My biggest concern is digging so deep that you make a lake out of your gravel pit. That's with this ordinance about the depths of the pits. Well, we've worked really hard to come up with, the handling of hazardous materials on the aquifer, dealing with the railroad, refueling yard out there and all that kind of stuff. I've been all over all of that on the ground and looked at all of their operations and stuff out there, so as well as all those big, long oil trains they have and everything. So I think we're in pretty good shape that way. It's just that I don't like the idea of digging so deep that we make a lake out of a gravel pit. That's and then as you see in Spokane Valley over there where they've actually got lakes now. You've opened the aquifer to surface contamination, see, by doing that. That's the big thing, so.
well, we've already talked about that. The staff is gonna look at it, and then in 2 months, hopefully sooner, we'll talk about it.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Yes. All right. Anything else? Any announcements? Wow, easy. All right, then if I could obtain a motion for adjournment of our workshop.
So moved?
Seconded.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.